إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Indeed, all praise is for Allah. We praise Him. We ask His help and we seek His forgiveness. And we seek the protection of Allah from the evil of our own souls and from the bad consequences of the sins that we commit. Whomsoever Allah guides, no one can misguide him. And whoever He allows to go astray, no one can thereafter guide him. And I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah alone. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His slave and His messenger. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who believe, fear Allah in the way that He's deserving of being feared, and do not die except in a state of submission to Him, except in the state of Islam. You may have heard that the fire ants, that when a rush of water comes in during a flood, they have this almost instantaneous response where they will abandon their homes and they will link together tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 of them. They will link together to form this big cluster of ants. And they become this floating life raft of ants. And they will just go with the flood waters, and that's how they will survive for maybe weeks at a time. It literally is an example of how a group will weather a storm by holding on to each other. And it's an example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, has showed us in His creation, how when they're exposed to hardship, how they respond with some type of communal support and help. It's an inspiring thing for us to take an example from. But you might argue that our community's response in the aftermath of Harvey was no less amazing. Because so many of our friends and our families, maybe some of the people praying with us here today, in the same way had their homes destroyed. And I saw the community come together and hold hands and work together to survive that difficult time, and those struggles and those efforts are continuing. So many countless acts of selflessness and sacrifice. You saw people humbling themselves. You saw doctors doing cleanup in people's houses and accountants doing demolition. It really was something. If you paid attention to all the good that came from it, it was something inspiring. It was also inspiring to me to see how our communities responded when the news of the critical illness of one of our imams went to us, Sheikh Hussein. Not only did, in just a few hours, they raised a good amount of money to help and support his family, but the amount of love and support that the community showed to them was something amazing. Just a couple days after he went into the hospital, I went to visit. And I went up to the guard station and I told him that I wanted to visit Khutbah. And without looking down at the list or on a screen, looking him up in anything, he immediately told me the room number, as if he had it memorized. So I said, it looks like you had a lot of visitors. He said, it must have been over 200 already. That's an overwhelming response of the love and support that the people came to show that family. And it was also inspiring to me when our friend and our brother Yusuf, when he was going through his illness, all the support and help that was given to him, no one exceeded that except for his wife. And that's something that I bear witness to. And tending to his every single need, helping him with everything that he needed help with until he took his last breath. It is as if Allah has given us this season of trials where so many people are in need of help and assistance. So many people are in desperate situations and they're reaching out and looking for others to help them. And I bear witness, oh Allah, that this community responded with a lot of them. That we saw so many people come together, so many efforts, some of them individuals, some of them organized groups of people coming together and working to help each other. And that's the topic of my khutbah today, helping each other. And as we continue to witness people experiencing hardships, both in our area, in our city, and around the world, I don't think that a community like this that's already proven that they have that motivation to help each other, I don't think that I need to sit here and encourage just that basic principle. But what I would like to do today is share some perspectives that I think are important to consider as we go out and we continue to do the work. Number one is the why. That's the big question that we as Muslims always have to ask ourselves whenever we attempt to do any good deed. We know that before we do anything, that we always have to ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? And no doubt, ultimately the answer to that question has to be that I'm doing this for Allah's pleasure. But if you reflect on it a little bit more, there's some benefit to understand, to think about, why is this thing that I'm doing something that will please Allah? So as it relates to this khutbah, why this idea of helping each other and coming to the aid of your brother, why is that something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciates so much? Do we do that? Do we help each other simply as an act of obedience in the same way that we pray? Let's face it, we pray the way that we do, the number of rak'ah that we do, the times that we do, purely, only out of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He told us to do that. So in some sense, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likewise commanded us to help each other, as He did in Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Or maybe we help each other because some part of it satisfies our fitrah, this internal nature of ours. It's kind of a moral compass that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us that reminds us that we know when we're doing something good. Helping other people feels good. Even my dad has a bumper sticker on his car. Happiness is making others happy. So that's something, there's no problem with that at all, under a couple of conditions. Number one, again, that your intention is ultimately for the sake of Allah, and it's an act sanctioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He told us that this is something He wants us to do, and no doubt there's so many instances where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to help one another. So oftentimes you find people doing good deeds, and you feel some type of satisfaction for it. Now we have to be careful that that's not the reason that we're doing it, but we can consider it some type of encouragement and motivation. When we do an act that's good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reinforces us, encourages us by making us feel like we did something like that we should be doing. But there's another angle that I think that we should consider. And first I'd like to share with you this hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah and Bukhari and Muslim, who said that the Prophet ﷺ said, every small bone of everyone has due upon it a sadaqah, some type of good deed, for every day upon which the sun rises. The Prophet ﷺ is basically telling us, every part of your body has to do some type of good thing every single day. And then he continues, bringing about justice between two is a sadaqah. Helping a man get on his mount, lifting him onto it, or helping him put his belongings on it is a sadaqah. A good word is a sadaqah. Every step you take towards the prayer is a sadaqah. And removing a harmful thing from the path is a sadaqah. The scholars, when they analyzed this hadith, they said the fact that the Prophet ﷺ called out our bones and our joints, and then associated that with doing good deeds, is an example of how we are supposed to recognize our blessings. That you find in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he found a blessing that he appreciated, he would respond by using that blessing to do good with it. One of the best examples is when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, when he was observed praying so persistently at night until his feet would become swollen, despite the fact that his past sins and his future sins had already been forgiven. He responded with a beautiful statement, shouldn't I then be a grateful servant? So whenever in life in general, we find some blessing that Allah has given us that we appreciate, we are bound to show our gratitude for it. We're bound, and we do that gratitude by using that blessing in a way that Allah is pleased with. So here in this statement, the Prophet ﷺ is calling out our bones and our muscular, our skeletal structure. This entity by which we're able to move and do the things that we're able to do. Every day that you get to use that body, every day that you get to move and you get to take advantage of your muscles and your joints, you should use that very body to do good with it. And notice that the Prophet ﷺ didn't even mention the most critical organs of our body. If that applies to our bones and our joints, then what about our heart and our mind? All of these faculties are blessings that Allah has given us. We show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by using those very same things to do good. And the opposite can be mentioned as well. If we're supposed to use the blessings that Allah gave us to do good deeds as an act of gratitude, then when we don't use those blessings, that is an act of ingratitude. And perhaps if we're ungrateful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take those away. And then a beautiful example of that is in this famous story that the Prophet told us about the leper, the blind man, and the bald man. And I'll just read it to you, and I don't think it needs much more explanation after that. That again, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying the following: Allah willed to test 3 children of Israel who were a leper, a blind man, and a bald man. So he sent them an angel who came to the leper and said, "What is it that you would want the most?" So he said, "Good color and good skin, for the people have a strong aversion to me." So the angel touched him, and his illness was cured. And he was given a good color and a good skin. And the angel asked him, "What kind of property do you like best?" And he said, "Camels." And so he was given a pregnant she-camel, and the angel said, "May Allah bless you in it." Then the angel went to a bald man. He said, "What is it that you would like the most?" And the man said, "I like good hair, and I wish to be cured of this disease, for the people feel repulsed by me." The angel touched him, and his illness was cured, and he was given good hair. Then the angel asked, "What kind of property do you like the best?" And he said, "Cows." The angel gave him a pregnant cow, and said, "Allah bless you in it." And then the angel went to a blind man, asked, "What is it that you would want the most?" And he said, "I would like my eyesight so that I may see the people." The angel touched his eyes and gave him back his eyesight. Then the angel asked, "What kind of property do you like the best?" He said, "Sheep." Then he gave him a pregnant sheep. Afterwards, all of those animals gave birth to young ones, and it multiplied to the extent that they had flocks of animals filling valleys. They all became very rich off of this wealth that Allah had given them. Then the angel, disguised in his shape and appearance of a leper, went to the man who was a leper and said, "I am a poor man who has lost all means of livelihood while on a journey. So no one will satisfy my need except Allah and then you. In the name of Him who has given you such nice color and beautiful skin and so much property, I ask you to give me a camel so that I can reach my destination." The man said, "I have so many obligations. Just excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now." The angel said, "I think I know you. Weren't you a leper to whom the people had a strong aversion? Weren't you a poor man that Allah gave you wealth?" And he said, "No, I got this property through inheritance." And the angel said, "If you're telling a lie, then let Allah make you as you were before." Then the angel, disguised in the shape and appearance of a bald man, went to him, and the same thing happened. And then the angel went as a blind man, and he went to the man who was blind, and he said, "I'm a poor man and a traveler whose means of livelihood have been exhausted while I'm on a journey. I have no one to help me except for Allah and then you. I ask you in the name of the one who's given you your sight to give me a sheep, so that with its help I can complete my journey." The man said, "No doubt, I was blind, and Allah gave me back my eyesight. I was poor, and Allah made me rich. So take anything you want from my property. By Allah, I will not stop you from taking anything you need from my property, and you take it for Allah's sake." The angel said, "Keep your property with you. You have been tested. Allah is pleased with you, and He's angry with your 2 companions." So the point again is that we have a countless number of blessings, and that is a factual statement. We are unable to count the number of blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and He gave us for free. We never have to earn all of the amazing bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in our lives. All that is asked of us is to show gratitude by using those blessings to do the things that He's told us He's pleased with. The second perspective that I'd like to mention is when it comes to helping people, and it inherently seems like a burden. It takes some kind of work or effort from you. It causes you some inconvenience, or somehow or another, you end up having to sacrifice something to help someone else. But if we look at it like that, if we look at it like a burden, then every time a person comes to us with a need, or every time you come across someone who's in some type of needs some type of assistance, then you're going to have to overcome this internal struggle that if this is some difficult thing, what do I have to pay now? What do I have to do now? It becomes so difficult for you. But the reality is that another person's need is not a burden, and it is in fact an opportunity for you. Prophet ﷺ said, and again this is narrated by Abu Hurairah in Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever relieves a believer's distress of the distressful aspects of this world, Allah will rescue him from a difficulty of the difficulties of the hereafter. Whoever alleviates the situation of one in dire straits who cannot repay his debt, Allah will alleviate his debt both in this world and the hereafter. Whoever conceals the faults of a Muslim, Allah will conceal his faults in this life and the next. Allah is helping the servant as long as the servant is helping his brother. A couple of lessons that I wanted to point out. That in this statement, the Prophet ﷺ, the word used for relieving that distress was nafasa. And the scholars say that that comes from an expression that means to give breath to someone who's about to suffocate. So it paints this amazing image of what you have the ability sometimes to do by the blessings that Allah has given you when you help somebody else. But there's another authentic narration in which the Prophet ﷺ used the word fajr. And the scholars say that that word is even stronger than the word nafasa. Because not only does it mean that you help that person practically through their difficulty, but it also means that you provide them some type of relief from the psychological stress that they're dealing with. Can you imagine that we're encouraged here not only to help each other, but to put a smile on the person's face while you're doing it? The second lesson that's interesting out of this narration is that the Prophet ﷺ mentions three things. One is relieving, helping a person who's going through a really difficult time. And then the second is to help a person with their debts. And the third was to cover their faults. And you may have noticed that in the latter two, the Prophet ﷺ said that there's a reward for you in this life and the next. But in the first one, when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned encouraging us to help somebody through a difficult time, that he said that Allah will rescue him from a difficulty of the difficulties of the hereafter. So does that mean that this one, because it's only the hereafter, is less virtuous than the other two? Rather, the scholars say that it's something interesting to pause about this. Because no matter what difficulty people are experiencing, no matter how hard it is, and our hearts feel and pour out for the people that we see are suffering so bravely, and all around the world, we just turn on the news, you might become depressed by how hard some people's situation is. But the reality is, no matter how difficult that situation is, every one of us is heading to a day in which there is difficulty that does not compare at all to this one. On that day, people will become so stressed and will sweat so profusely that they will drown in their own perspiration. People will feel so desperate that they will run from their own parents and their children and their spouses. On that day, people will be so afraid because they'll be held accountable for every single thing that they did in this life. The reality is that that day has the potential to be so much more, infinitely more difficult than this life, but Allah's offering you a good deal. That if you find somebody in that difficult situation and you help them, then He will help you then. And it's something that's enough said. It's enough of a verse to mention that by itself. How much more motivation and encouragement do we need if we just imagine that somebody is stranded by the road, or somebody is out of their house, somebody doesn't have a meal, and you're able to help them and help them through that difficulty. Maybe on the day of judgment, you'll have an easy day because of that. There are so much more lessons that can be taken from that hadith, but the main point to mention is that as the Prophet ﷺ is encouraging us to help each other and assist your brother, and each time he does it, he associates the benefits with the helper. So we need to change our perspective, that your need for assistance is not a burden for me. I'm not helping you, rather it's an opportunity. In the end, I'm really helping myself. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. The topic of my khutbah today was about helping one another, and I mentioned a couple of perspectives in the first khutbah. The number one is that when we do that, when we go out and we help each other, that part of our intention as we're doing it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that we're using the blessings that we've been given to show gratitude to Allah for those. When we use those blessings to help other people, that's a way of showing Allah thanks. And then the second perspective that I mentioned was that we need not consider the assistance of others as burdens to us. Rather, they're opportunities to benefit us in this life and the next. To introduce the third and the final point of the khutbah today, let's return to that analogy that I mentioned in the very beginning. So for those of you who missed it, I mentioned this phenomenon, how fire ants, when their colony is flooded, they'll band together and they'll cling to each other, and they'll float on the flood waters until they find a safe place to live. Something else interesting about that, one of the scientists who studied this, they said the following: contrary to popular belief, the queen doesn't issue orders to the colony, rather she spends her life laying eggs. Each ant controls itself based on the information gathered from its immediate vicinity. So again, I think that's something that we can identify with, especially in Harvey with the disaster that widespread. We didn't have the opportunity for one person, one leader to stand up and organize all the different efforts going on. What we saw instead was that everybody, based on the environment around them, based on what their neighbors were going through, or what they saw, everybody decided to play a role. And that's how we more effectively were able to help others. But this goes to another level. Because even though in the beginning of the khutbah I praised this idea of doctors doing cleanup work, we all know that as good as the deed that is, that their skill sets and their talents are better served elsewhere. So in the long run, we need to consider something. If you look at any industry, any industry at all, whether it's medicine or engineering or anything at all, you'll find that people don't take a career as a very general task. Rather, people specialize. And what that does is it allows industries to function at a much more higher level. You're able to achieve much greater goals when people are focusing on individual tasks. So our community, in our efforts to help each other, we should benefit from that same philosophy, that each of us should be working in the areas that we're most qualified to, that we're the most capable of. And we should know that all of our efforts will not be the same. In the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Inna sa'yakum lashatta." Indeed, your efforts are diverse. We go different directions in life. And so we acquire different specialties, different talents. And as we go through life and we find those things, we need to utilize that specialty, that talent in our own respective ways, and that way we can help people in a more complete fashion. But there's another step to that as well. I'll share a story with you actually. I had a friend of mine who was studying in Medina. And so we were talking to him and we said something to him like, "Man, you must have done a lot of Umrah while you were there." And he kind of hesitated, like to tell he didn't, right? And then he basically admitted that it was difficult for him. You know, maybe he didn't like the crowd or whatever the case. And so on the outside for us, living thousands of miles away, like, why, you were right there, why wouldn't you go to Umrah all the time? And then he told me something very interesting that I never forgot. He said, "You know, Jannah has a lot of gates. And I chose to pursue my Jannah through a different one." The point is, after we fulfill our obligations, we don't have to do every single good deed. Some people, you find themselves going after, racing on every opportunity, which is great. But perhaps it's more effective for us to pursue the things that we're more passionate about. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And the reason that I wanted to mention this point and emphasize this point is because, you know, for example, in the aftermath of something like Harvey, everybody's motivated to do something. But the reality is, after a while, things will settle down, and we kind of forget about how much people need help, and we'll go back into our selfish little lives. And then we'll forget and we'll lose that motivation, and sometimes we lose this energy to continue to help people. But if you dedicate yourself to something that you're passionate about, if you help others by something that you're really good at, that you enjoy doing, then that more likely lends to you doing that on a more consistent basis. Our communities will always need help. We will always need assistance of each other. That's why 1400 years ago, the Prophet ﷺ is encouraging the communities, the people, individually to do their parts and assigning to them a virtue, demonstrating to them that if each of us did our role, the community as a whole benefits from this. But we only benefit from that if it's consistent. We can't just do it after a hurricane. We can't just do it when somebody dies or major disasters happen. Every single day, there are people in need of assistance. And like the Prophet ﷺ said, every single day, every joint of our body has due upon it a sadaqah. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those people who serve each other and help each other each and every day. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lighten our burden, to make it easy for us, for those who are suffering and those who are going through a difficult time. We ask Allah to alleviate their burden. For those who are sick, we ask Allah to cure them. And for those who are passed, we ask Allah to forgive them. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather us and gathering better than us in Jannah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان الله وبحمده أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.